1 second. Ella, some of the team, could you just pop out for just 1 second? I call this developer currency. It's stroke waffles. It's how to die by caramel. And it's great with a cup of coffee, and I'd like to give you guys some stroke waffles to say thank you.
All of us are too skinny, anyway.
Okay, this will fatten you up. It's like ready for winter. There you go. Just so you know, I did this just especially for you in the female toilets. I had a couple of females look at me in a bit of a weird way as well. I'm sorry, I'm not there to creep you out. Welcome, my name's Josh. Oh wait, sorry, before I even get to that. I've got 204 slides, 25-minute talk. I realise that's about 8 minutes per slide, or 8 slides per minute. Let's see how that goes. I'm Josh. Josh Kalderimis. Find me on Twitter, GitHub. I contribute to Rails. I help look after some gems. I come from Wellington, New Zealand. Yeah. I live in Amsterdam where we're known for our bikes, our fantastic architecture, our nightlife, and our day activities. I work for a company called Railsberry. My cohort, Sven, who I don't think is here at the moment. Oh, he is now! You're awake! Usually we talk about rainbows and unicorns and love, but today it's me, here for you. And today I'm going to talk about funding open source, along with peace, some love, and some happiness. I want to talk about that investment isn't bad, but there are other options. Crowdfunding is one of those, and I'm not going to give you complicated equations which will equal piles of cash. I don't want you coming away from this going, haha, I must crowdfund all the things. And I definitely don't want you then complaining and saying, I only got $10, Josh. So, as a little bit of an introduction, as I said, I work for Railsberry. It's a distributed, continuous integration system for the open source community, blah, blah. We all know this. If you don't, you're living under a rock. Who's living under a rock? There's a couple, okay. In short, we run your tests for you. We have 10,000 projects. We broke the 10,000 mark yesterday. We're doing 5,000 builds a day on some architecture that sometimes astounds me that works. We received 1,100 projects in the last month. We're completely free. It's all open source. We're just another piece of infrastructure for the Ruby community, for the open source community. It's like Ruby gems. In the last month, we did 86,000 page views. We did 40,000 visits, 23,000 unique visitors. And this all started for fun. It was meant to be instant, live, modern, hackable. It was meant for love. But little did you know that Travis actually united two people. It was this blog post. You can't quite see it at the top, but it was from 2011, from February. And this was Sven's second blog post about Travis and his ideas around it. He had actually got something working. It was on Heroku. And we talk about the moustache a lot. So this moustache brought Sven and I together. And funnily enough, like the reason we wear shite shirts, they're called shite shirts, I was about to say shit shirts for a second there, but we wear shite shirts on stage, is I told Sven, yes, I'm not going to be able to do any hacking today. It's my birthday. I'm going to go out and have some fun with Tracy. And he goes, I'm going to get you a birthday present. And then he goes, I really like it as well. I'm going to get myself one. So we had a conference lined up, and I was like, well, if you're going to get me a shite shirt, I'm going to grow you a moustache. Well, me a moustache for you. So there we are, and now we go to conferences around the world. I grow this, my girlfriend despises me for a couple of months. I go to the conference, I shave off the beard, and then afterwards I get rid of the moustache and she's happy again. This time I have to keep it for a week. But back to the topic. Travis CI initially started with some people going, oh, this is cool. Like Ryan Bates said, this is great for the community. And it started to grow. It grew and it grew and it really grew. And it spread. And it changed, we had a whole array of languages using us. It grew from a team of 1 to a team of 5. And we've all traveled a familiar path during this process of the last year and a bit. You know, we've had day jobs. We did contracting on the side. We left our day jobs, went contracting. We started a company. We used our savings, we borrowed from our friends and family, and we built a product. But a lot of people, when they're thinking about building a product, if it be building an open source library or framework or something that's actually going to be out there in the wild that might actually become something later, is they're always thinking investment. Maybe there's friends and family. You know, you take a little bit of money for a tiny percentage and you give it away to the people that you really trust. It might be some influencers and some really good tech people that you know that can make connections and that you get on with great and give great advice. Could actually be your friends and family. You've got seed money, like Y Combinator. You've got whole different rounds of series funding as well. But what about crowdfunding? So I kind of consider crowdfunding like your modern day church, really. You go to church and this plate comes around after someone's given a sermon, and it's like, give me money for it. And you can decide, did I really like it, or was it kind of yuck? And then you can decide how much you put in. You get money, essentially, without having to give away something of your company, your equity. It's for believers and potential customers as well. Like, this is a great way to determine, do I have a good product? You get instant feedback on your idea. And it's very much like the Lean Startup book. I love it that this kid's reading it. I want to know what he comes up with. But this book is all about measuring. People donating to your product or to your idea is a source of validation. If you're going to get a lot of people behind it, you know that you've got a customer base waiting for it. It's simple, really. You have an idea, you crowdfund, you do something miscellaneous in between, and you profit. And this already exists today. You've heard of the Pledgy site. This used to be integrated into GitHub. You could do Kickstarter. Or you can actually roll your own. I was trying to think of a picture that went nicely with roll your own, and I only got this. You can roll your own sushi. Fantastic, I really want that. If anyone wants to crowdfund me a sushi roller, I will happily take it. So if you look at Pledgy for a second here, I went down to Leon with Sven, and I lost my iPhone. It was stolen while we're out on the waterfront area after the last day of the conference. And I'd already paid for myself to get down to the conference to speak with Sven, and I was like, well, this is a bit of a downer for the end. And I set up a Pledgy to get myself a new iPhone. And I just pretty much said, well, listen, I work on Travis. Can someone help me? Can people help me crowdfund a new phone? And I raised 473 euros, a little bit over my goal, within about a week. If you look at something a little bit more popular, Ruby Version Manager, this has raised 14,000 US from 565 pledges. Now the good thing about Pledgy is it's about causes. It's about open source projects. It could be about, well, it's mostly about continuous donations. Although you've got that goal in there, you'll see that RVM doesn't have an end. It just goes and goes. It's also about feel-good projects. It's about helping someone out like a stolen iPhone, but if we think about maybe Kickstarter for a second, Kickstarter is more about products. You've got a goal in mind, you've got a deliverable, and this is what you want to do with the money. For example, this bike, it asked for 10,000 and it raised 21. And only did that, and it's still got 23 days to go. It got 48 backers. This Diaspora, 200,000. And 6,500 backers. That's fantastic. Like, this is an open source project, and it's out in the wild, and you can still contribute to it. If anyone remembers this watch, it was one of the big products to go on Kickstarter, and it raised $942,000. Like, all they had was a prototype, and they raised this amount of money. The biggest project was actually for an online game, if I'm correct. 3.3 million. I mean, that's awesome. People say, this is what I've got, we've still got to finish it, here is our team. 3.3 million from people saying, I want to use it, I want to buy it. No investment, no equity given away, and they pre-sold their product. Even if you look at the bike back for a second here, 16 people pre-bought one of those bikes. A little bit of a discount. I mean, this is a fantastic validation that you're on to something good. What about a roll your own though? Maybe I'll just talk about how Travis did it, because this is the best experience I have with a roll your own. We wanted something that was fun, we want something simple, we wanted to support one-off payments, but we also wanted subscriptions. So people could say, I'm going to donate 15 US a month to keep you guys going. And we wanted to sell something fun as well. So we're trying to think of a domain name, and we came up with love. love.travisci.org. And this is the beautiful page that Sven put together with beautiful unicorns. We've got Brian, we've got some donations, and we've got some basic stats. And you won't see it at all. I can see it. You can't see this at all, but we raised a total of 86,000 US. And it's still going. Time to time, we'll just get another email to say you got another 10 bucks. And that's fantastic. It's actually a really feel-good feeling that you're doing something that people donate to and you're like, awesome. We had a whole range of categories, a whole different set of products, things that you got back. We've got companies that can donate as well for much larger. But if we break this down, we look at the companies and the individuals. Companies are looking for advertising. They're looking for marketing, and primarily, you can actually say it's about recruitment. So you've got to look at the motivations for a second here. Maybe I'm being a little bit pessimistic, but companies do want something in return. They want to show that they're being, that they're supporting something like this, especially for larger amounts of money. And they also want early access, possibly. They're probably donating for the two reasons that it's great marketing, but I want to use that product. If you look at individuals are more likely to want to give, for buying, for feeling rewarded, but they want to feel appreciated as well. Maybe a thank you card, a mention on the website, a Skype chat, or some swag, stickers. I love it how stickers are such great developer currency. You can go to every conference and there's always a ton of stickers everywhere. We send them a beautiful email and thank them so much. We have follow-ups of what they're going to get out of it. But of course, people are more likely to give if they feel appreciated for it. And the more appreciated they feel, the more they're likely to give. And this is where I was supposed to put in a picture of our certificate. I've got a beautiful certificate. We got a wax seal made up. I spent an entire day sniffing wax fumes while I wax sealed all of this. In fact, Jose, are you here? Yep. Because Scumbag Yehuda isn't. Here's a certificate for donating. Woo-hoo! But actually, what would we change? Because I think the campaign went great. You can look at that amount and you can go, that is awesome. To raise 86,000 is a huge amount, but what would I change? I was trying to think of this earlier, and there's actually one big thing I change. The goal. Having a goal of what you want is a huge incentive for people to give. Because if they go to the site and they see, oh, they've raised 86,000, that's heaps, I don't need to give. But if you say, we want to raise 100,000, people are going to go, oh, I'm going to help them reach the target. It's a bit of a psychological thing, really. You're kind of gamifying the system, but you want people to feel like they're helping contribute, instead of them going, I think they've contributed enough. But there's definitely pros and cons to this whole crowdfund system as well. Like, for example, the pro is Travis is all ours. It's still owned by Travis CI. GmbH, German company. We've built community respect, I feel. We've gone at it and we've kind of bootstrapped this to say we want to build this company and we don't want to go the investment route. And it shows how many people actually want to use us. People donate specifically so they can get access. And the money is helping us provide that, but it's also a validation that we're onto something. But there are definitely cons. It's a lot of work. Like, a roll your own system is a lot of work, crowdfunding is a lot of work as well. You're always counting pennies. Like, investors are going to invest usually a much larger sum. And that sum is based on you can live for X period of time on this money, and now you've got some money to live off, you'll be fine, just work on the product. 83,000 will probably go a long way with one person, it goes quite a way with two people. We've got Constantine, we've got Matthias as well. It's 4 people. It goes some way. In fact, I have to really stress that we're really appreciative of Constantine joining the team. I mean, it's awesome. Constantine joined the team because it was, I think Travis is an awesome product. It's an awesome thing for the community. But when he started, it was like, you get to work on pull requests. Nail pull requests, just get it done. And without this funding, we couldn't have provided that feature because we didn't have the manpower to add something so complex. It looks so simple when you think about it, and then it gets so complex so quickly. But it's also a huge distraction. You want to work on the product instead of spending a week putting together letters and certificates and stamps, like everything from, you know, contacting companies and saying, give me stickers to send out to the people that donated because we think that's cool. Stamping envelopes and getting envelopes, it's all actually quite a time-consuming distraction. Doing a lot of the work up front, I probably would have done that differently as well. That was my responsibility, and I guess being a last-minute person isn't a great idea. Also, don't expect that money will just be continuous. This is the actual sales chart from Stripe over about a week. Bang, a little bang, and then it's just tapered off. That is what you will probably expect as well. Kickstarter's a little different because they've got marketing behind it. You do a Kickstarter project, you might get an initial bang, and then later on, if they feature you on an email or if someone else features you on a newsletter, you'll get further bangs. It will just explode. You go on their homepage. They're a well-known site with a lot of visitors, and people go there just to see what's being done. If you do a roll your own, people need to know their domain name. They need to know the URL. I ran into people that were like, oh, I never actually knew about that site. So it's harder to market your own, roll your own, instead of just leeching on to Kickstarter. And remember, you need to be sincere as well. The things that you're giving back, you're not trying to take. Like these people, the people that are supporting you are doing it for a reason. And I think selling yourself as a sincere, like the sincerity of what we're trying to promote is more important than just saying, I want your money. It doesn't need to be your only option either. You can look at a seed or a Series A later. You can talk to an investor once you've used all that money. But that is a hairy slope as well. Because you take all this money from the community, and then if you just go to an investor later, it's a bit of a slap in the face for everyone. So you need to at least be aware that people are watching you and saying, we just gave you money, we expect you to be good with this money. So the first way that we were good with the money is we've delivered our first promise. We've got 11 languages, pull request support, and we've got more coming up. And things will not always go perfectly. A good example, case in point, is Railsberry. This did not go perfectly, even though you've got a 44,000 raise. There was a lot of hate, a huge amount of hate in the community for this idea. And helping run or helping coach a Rails Girls event in Berlin, you realize how painful it is to get people up and running with programming. This is an awesome idea, and people are hating. If I touch on what Mislav said yesterday, sometimes hate can lead to good discussion, but I think we need to be careful about our words as well. Like there's a difference between, hey, maybe you might just want to cut it off at the amount that you asked for, versus all the hate that's like, this is fucking stupid, this is blah, this is blah. We need to be kind. I think this is awesome. Anyhow, haters are going to hate. But we could turn this hate into cash. Always be improving your campaign as well. For example, I'd just like to say right now, I was talking to Matthias, and what we're going to do is we've got these two huge and bigs. The big difference is that when you get these, you get some credit on Pro when we get Pro out the door. We're in Alpha at the moment. And you get some remote programming with people like Jose and Yehuda and Santiago and Xavier Nora. Like, all these awesome people are going to pair program with you. So what we're going to do is we're going to include a copy of the React handbook for both of those plans as a big thank you for people who donate that much. Not that much. We're also going to double the pair programming. If you go huge, you get 2 hours. If you go big, you get an hour. These people are ready to help you. We're just going to throw it in. If you've already donated, talk to us and we can bump you up if you are interested, but we're trying to say that there are things that we can improve. This is one thing that we can improve. Even Brian Ford, even Phoenix have jumped in, and dear old Tender Love. But finally, always be closing. Always be closing. If you go to some drinks at a conference, go and talk to some companies that are there about your idea and see if they want to sponsor it. Crowdfunding doesn't necessarily need to be a website. It can just be you talking to companies and say, help us build XYZ. We'll put your name at the bottom of the project README to say thank you. Companies are interested. Remember that when people are donating to your idea, they're donating to you. And when they're investing in your idea, they're investing in you. And putting a face and a personality behind your idea is probably one of the most valuable things you can do. If you look at Kickstarter, the most successful projects are not people that just put up a picture and say, donate to my idea. They're people that do videos that show who they are and their idea and where it came from. Those are the most successful projects. But one last thing. Apart from all of these awesome companies that have helped us get to where we are and helped me get here today and help us add new features tomorrow, there's actually one very last thing. SoundCloud will be backing, along with Travis, but SoundCloud will be backing a new open source funding program. So who here is from SoundCloud? Stand up for a second, because you guys are awesome. So what this means is, think about the Ruby Summer of Code, but it's going to last all year long. Okay? We get to put some, it's going to only be the beginning. This is only the beginning of what's being sorted out. There's a lot to figure out, but along with SoundCloud, what we're going to be doing is paying developers up to $3,000 a month to work full-time or part-time on open source to improve the community and our libraries. Okay? Thank you, SoundCloud. So apart from a lot of love and the rainbows and the unicorns and the other love, I want to say thank you. These are our contact details. You're awesome. Thank you. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we were late.
Cool. Any questions? I love you too, whoever you are.
That's true.
Hey, I just have a question about the funding. When you eventually launch paid Travis, will you continue with the crowdfunding?
We haven't quite figured that out. Running the system as it is, I'd like to start publishing some of the costs associated with this for people to understand how complex of a problem it is. All of the infrastructure we have is donated by companies buying worker boxes. We pay for some of them. That comes out of our crowdfunding. Like the Heroku cover our infrastructure costs. We've got dedicated machines running VirtualBox. We've got add-ons like RabbitMQ and Redis and all of these bits, and they're all supplied by different people. So when we get to paid part, which is going to be a completely separate infrastructure, that's only going to be paid for by people that have plans. we've still got to figure out how we cover the costs of .org. So we still have a lot to figure out in that regards. Maybe we just change it to advertising. We don't know yet. I think we need to talk and figure that out. But we will let the community know. I think it's important that we keep it as transparent as possible as well.
I just have a follow-up. If you are making enough money with this build,
Wait for the mic.
if you're making enough profit with the Pro version, will you use the profits to cover the .org, or will the Pro product only, will the proceeds of the Pro product only work on the Pro product?
I should have anticipated these questions and pre-checked with my other guys as well. I think it's only fair that we put our money into it as well, because it is beneficial, but we are also putting in a huge amount of time into it. Like the time sink, 4 people working full-time on this is a huge cost. That said, you know, there will eventually become a time, I think, that Travis can probably cover the majority of it, or all of it. But I think that still the most expensive part is the worker VMs. To use something like EC2 is completely out of the question. The cost is just astronomical to spin up a VM and shut it down for a 5-minute test, when you pay for a full hour. Blue Box is 15 cents per hour, so you pay for bits that you use. Maybe that's better. But the economics of it just means that we probably need to map out what we can cover in the long term. We'll definitely let everyone know. Yes, Boomy. Oh, no, there's one here.
Did you consider feature funding?
Sorry?
Feature funding. That
feature funding. Oh, yeah, that's actually a nice idea. Like if we said this feature, this is how much we think it will cost, donate. That's maybe a good idea as well going forward. I think, you know, the initial crowdfunding we did could maybe just be seen as beginning. I think there are some big features that are a lot more complicated when you think about how it works into the infrastructure, like build artifacts. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could test Radiant and upload screenshots after its Selenium test to see if any failures, what happened? Or maybe you've got flog results or code metrics that you want uploaded to view. Like, that is an awesome feature, but how we fit that into the infrastructure is not only a time sink, but also how do we pay for the extra costs associated with it. So that could be a good idea. Any other questions?
Yeah. So I have a question about a unicorn. How can you, as a German company, use Stripe? Please tell me.
Sorry, can you say that again?
How can you, as a non-US company,
use
Stripe?
we get this a fair bit as well. Everyone loves Stripe, don't they? That looks awesome. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an awesome setup. I hate PayPal. The trick is you need to find a friend in America who has a company who can open up a holding account for you. And then the payments are effectively going to another company, and then they transfer it to you. You're not paying US taxes, you're paying German taxes in our case. In this instance, Jumpstart Lab, which is Jeff Kashmir, who's running Hungry Academy, helped out and was on board and took care of all of that for us. Cool. Any other questions? No?
One more over there. 2 more. I think we'll finish with those 2.
I was just wondering, have you considered alternative organizational structures? Like, I mean, just very superficial looking at it, like in arts, for example, you have non-profits, institutions that... We
were looking at doing a non-profit, but to do that is actually really complicated in a legal way and accounting. And at that stage, we're trying to think of the simplest way. Like, we want to keep it KISS. We really want to keep it simple, to get it up and running, as do the smallest thing possible. And in this case, doing a GmbH was actually simpler than trying to do all of the stuff surrounding doing a non-profit, because it's probably a lot easier in the US to do a non-profit than it is in Europe. We do have extra taxes, of course, now. We do have a simplification of what we have to release to the public. But maybe going forward, part of travisci.org will go into that. We're not too sure. We're definitely in the early days, like we're a year-old group of people. We've only been running for 3 months as a company, and I think we've achieved a lot, but we've definitely got a long way to go.
So out of curiosity, since you said you would set a goal now, what would have been your goal if you had set one?
I think 100,000 personally is a nice number. Part of it is a number, and also it allows us to then probably just continue a bit further. I'm not looking for us to continue 2 years on crowdfunding. I mean, I'm just looking for us to at least get some more features out the door and get alpha to the point where, like, for example, all of the companies that have donated to Travis will get early alpha / early beta access. They're the first people that we sign up to Travis Alpha or Travis Pro to try it out. And then we roll it out to all the individual donators and get them on board. So everyone's going to have a little bit of time to try it out, and then later on we charge. So that 2-month period of running the infrastructure and of the development costs is quite a big burden initially. I don't want donations to cover us forever, but maybe I think 100,000 is probably a good number. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.